Hi, so I'm going to show you how to find the vertex of a quadratic function using an algebra formula. And the formula I'm going to use is x equals negative b over 2a, which I'll explain later. And it's specifically for quadratic functions that are not simplified, so we have to simplify them, all right? So they're not in standard form. All right, so a quadratic function that is not simplified. All right, so this is a quadratic function because I see a square sign. So once you simplify this out, there's going to be an x squared term in here. So I want to find the vertex of this. So I'm going to first simplify this. So x minus 3 squared means x minus 3 times x minus 3. And I know that that 5 is there, but I'm going to leave that alone for a moment. So x times x is x squared. If I FOIL it, x times negative 3 is negative 3x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 3 is plus 9. Okay, so then I'm going to combine like terms. So minus 3 and minus 3 combine to negative 6x. Bring down the x squared, bring down the plus 9. So that was still in parentheses because there was a 5 in front, which I haven't forgotten, so I'm bringing that down. I have to distribute this to every term in here. So 5 times x squared is 5x squared. 5 times negative 6 is negative 30x, and 5 times positive 9 is positive 45. And then I can't forget to add the plus 1 at the end. So now h of x is equal to 5x squared minus 30x plus 46, because I've added 45 and 1. So this and this are the exact same quadratic function. It's that this is in non-simplified form, and this is in simplified form or standard form, sometimes also called standard form. Okay, so now they're asking me to find the vertex using this formula. So this is the formula to find the x value of the vertex if something is in standard form, which we now have it in standard form. So here, a equals 5 because it's the coefficient of x squared, b equals negative 30 because it's the coefficient of x, and c equals 46 because it's the constant or the number by itself without x. So if I plug it into this formula, x equals negative b over 2a, that's going to be negative 30 all over 2 times 5. This becomes positive 30 over 10, which equals 3. So my vertex is at x equals 3. So then that was finding the x value. Once I do that, I'm going to plug in x equals 3 to the function, because this is the x value of the vertex. If I split that into steps, step 1 is to simplify. Once I have it simplified, step 2 is to use the formula. So that's step 2. Step 1. And then step 3 is plug in x equals 3 to the function because I've got the x value of the vertex for step 2. So I'm going to go back to, I can go back to the original or I can go back to my simplified function. It doesn't matter which, as long as I've done my math right. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning because I want to show you something. So I'm going to plug in x equals 3 to the x value. 3 minus 3 is 0, so 0 squared times 5. And it's interesting that this ends up being 0 for a reason I'm not going to go into yet, but that might be something to think about later, okay? 3 minus 3 is 0. 0 squared is 0 times 5 is 0, plus 1 is 1. So that means that the function, this whole function, equals 1 when x equals 3. This is the same thing as saying y equals 1 when x equals 3. So that means that this is my vertex. Okay. If I were to verify that by graphing, which you're supposed to do for every problem, you don't have to freehand it. Go ahead and just use a graphing function or graphing calculator on the computer. And I'm going to I've done that already. So if you look at it on a computer, you'll notice that it looks something like this, where this value over here is the vertex. Notice it is a minimum because it's at the bottom. This is not required, but just so you notice some a little review there. And then if you notice, there is an axis of symmetry that cuts through the middle of the parabola. And this is the y-intercept, which is, again, not required for this assignment, but it would be 0.46. Notice that's a very big number. So if I wanted to graph this without a graphing calculator and figure out all the parts, it would be hard to do it if I didn't know the algebra first. And that's why sometimes it's better to do it by graphing, and sometimes it's better to do it by algebra because the numbers are too big. All right. The reason I'm doing this is because a handful of people are missing out that the axis of symmetry is actually a line. It's this dotted line over here. It's not the parabola, but it is a helper line to help you understand the parabola. So that means when I ask you for the algebra version of the axis of symmetry, or the equation of the axis of symmetry, I'm looking for the equation of a line. So the axis of symmetry is the equation of this vertical line. That means you cannot say that the axis of symmetry is just 3, like it's because it's at the x value of 3. You have to actually say, so that's not right. You actually have to say that the axis of symmetry is an equation of a line, which is x equals 3. So that's the entire line of points that represents the axis of symmetry.